All right, today we're going to take a look at a book that's become, well, almost a modern-day manifesto for a totally different way of life, The 4-Hour Workweek. Now, it promises this radical escape from the daily grind, but can it actually work? Let's dig in and find out.
I mean, just listen to the subtitle. Escape 9 to 5, live anywhere, and join the new rich. That is an incredibly bold promise, right? It sounds amazing, but also kind of too good to be true. It's not just about making more money, it's about becoming part of this whole new class of people who figured out time and money.
So that's the big question we're really tackling here. Is this something a normal person can actually pull off, or is it just some pipe dream? And what's really interesting is that the book itself says, yeah, it's absolutely possible, but it also straight up admits that most people who try are going to fail. Let's get into why that is.
Okay, so to even wrap our heads around this whole thing, we've got to start by changing how we think about wealth. Like, completely. The book's entire philosophy is built on this one core idea. It's not about how much money you have, it's about the freedom your money buys you.
So, let's play this out. Imagine two people. On one side, there's you, making a solid $30,000 a year. On the other side is your buddy John, and he's raking in $150,000. Now, at first glance, it's a no-brainer, right? John is clearly winning. But that is definitely not the whole story.
But, and this is a big but, here's where the whole picture flips. You see, you're only working a smart 10 hours a week. John, on the other hand, is basically living at his desk, putting in 80 hours. When you actually break it down, your time is worth $58 an hour. John's only $36. All of a sudden, who's actually rich isn't so clear anymore, is it?
And then there's the final piece of the puzzle, the real game changer, location. John is stuck in super expensive New York City, where a nice dinner out can easily cost him $200. But you have the freedom to be sitting on a beach in Thailand having an even better meal for just $20. Suddenly, every dollar you earn is worth way, way more.
So what this all comes down to is this really powerful idea the book calls relative income. This is the real way to measure wealth. It's not the number in your bank account, it's how much you make per hour, plus the freedom of where and when you work. When you look at it this way, you're not just a little richer than John, you're in a completely different league.
All right, so the idea sounds great in theory, but how do you actually do it? Well, the book's answer is that you have to build something called a muse, which is basically just a fancy term for an automated online business that makes you money without you having to be there all the time.
The basic idea here is nothing new, really. It's good old-fashioned entrepreneurship. You create some kind of product or service, could be an ebook, an online course, whatever, and you sell it online. But the real magic trick is how you play the global economy. You earn in a strong currency, like US dollars, but you go live and spend your money somewhere where that currency is king.
Okay, but here's where the book gets really honest. It gives a major reality check. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. If you're starting from zero, your first attempt at building one of these businesses is probably going to be a disaster. The book is pretty clear about that. But every time you fail, you learn. And the stuff you need to know to succeed, it's all out there. Anyone can learn it.
And this is where you have to completely shift your mindset. I mean, even if it takes you 2, maybe 3 years of hard work and failures to finally build your little freedom machine, think about the alternative. The book puts it pretty bluntly. It's working for someone as a slave for 40 years. When you frame it like that, putting in the effort up front seems like a pretty good deal.
Okay, so let's say you've done it. You've built your business. Now, how in the world do you get your work time down to just 4 hours a week? Well, the book actually has a surprisingly simple two-part formula for what it calls extreme efficiency. It all comes down to 2 key steps: elimination and outsourcing. And look, the goal here isn't about cramming more work into your day or working faster. It's the exact opposite. It's about doing less by getting rid of what doesn't matter and giving the rest to someone else.
So that first step, elimination, it's all built around the 80-20 rule. You've probably heard of it. The idea is that 80% of your good results come from just 20% of your efforts. Your job is to figure out what that vital 20% is and then be absolutely ruthless about cutting out the other 80%.
And that brings us to the second step, outsourcing. The book tells this killer story to make its point. There's this guy who spends his whole Saturday mowing his lawn just to save the $20 it would cost to hire someone. And the book just asks this brutal question. So your entire day is worth $20? That's it? Ouch. That really forces you to think about what your time is actually worth.
Now, when you hear outsourcing, you might be picturing hiring a whole team.
But it doesn't have to be like that. You can start small and be really strategic. You know, if you run a YouTube channel, maybe you hire a freelance editor for a tiny piece of what the video earns. That frees you up to do the one thing only you can do: come up with the ideas and create the content.
So when you put all this together, you realize something really important. The 4-hour workweek isn't just a list of productivity hacks or business tips. It's really a call to action for a total, fundamental change in how you think about work, money, and your life.
So, let's boil it all down. What are the big ideas you should walk away with? First, start thinking of wealth as time and freedom, not just a dollar amount. Second, get there by obsessively focusing on that critical 20% of your work that gets you 80% of your results. Third, remember your time is the most valuable thing you have. Don't trade it away for pennies. And finally, be patient and understand that failure is just part of the process.
And that really leaves us with the book's final lingering question. It's a question it asks every single person who reads it. If you choose not to actively design a life around freedom and what's important to you, then what's the alternative? It's a pretty powerful thought, and it really makes you stop and take a good hard look at the path you're on right now.